who you respect and who you know, and it could be people in your church, your company, your political party, whatever it is. In practice, it's just the people that you have empirically rated, and that then defines who you inherit your grey listing data from. And if you throw in the idea that I mentioned earlier of curating which people you actually do deliberately pull in that grey listing data from, I think it might possibly be a solution to this. I mean, it's all very, very hypothetical and hand-wavy and sci-fi, and honestly, we haven't even built a proof of concept of it yet. But it's something that we really, really want to do on top of the Matrix data set and see whether it sinks or swims.
So, I don't know, if somebody tell me if I'm speaking over somebody else, because the audio is
You're good, you're good, go.
But, so I mean, I've been playing with this exactly the same problem from precisely the other end. I'm interested in how do you assert authority over IoT devices, how do you claim them, and how do you lend them to other people in ways that you trust? So, you know, how do I lend somebody access to my garage doors or my, you know, whatever it is? And I came out with
then revert that permission later.
Yes, and maybe time expire it and those sorts of things. But what I came to the realization was that actually the correct solution to this was to go back and read Jane Austen. And what happens in Jane Austen is that the young ladies are not allowed to speak to people until they've been introduced by a peer that both parties already know. And that is, you at that point you're formally introduced by somebody who knows both people and can say, you know, Mrs. Bennet, Miss Bennet, meet Mr. Darcy. And at that point, Mr. Darcy and Miss Bennet can speak to each other in polite company. And I think that introduction, that having to be introduced is pretty much what Matthew's saying, but I'm being more brutal about it. I'm saying, you know, you have to be physically in proximity for that to play out, because I don't want anyone, you know, I think that's an interesting limitation that works for IoT. It doesn't work for Facebook.
Yeah,
I think you've got a valid subset. Sorry, James. I was just going to say that it's a valid subset of the problem, but also if you just limit our problem to invites, to, you know, am I allowed to start a conversation? Then again, you probably do only need a binary vouch system to basically have somebody who can vouch for you. But I still quite like the generic solution too. I wonder if it solves Paul's consideration that you need to have a financial penalty on people to get them to participate in the system, if instead you can rely on social dynamics and this ad hoc social graph to decide whether you trust, whether it's introductions to Mr. Darcy or a more informal, hey, I saw, you know, in practice I seem to know that you hang out with him, therefore you're probably okay, which is more the model I'm going for.
But Dr. Crow's thing is basically that if you go to that far enough down that line, reputation becomes currency. So actually, the two alternatives meld into the same thing.
Oh yeah. Sorry, James. Were you trying to say something?
I'm with you with all of the things that you're saying, but in the back of my mind, there's something niggling me saying you've got to have this kind of emergency communication protocol built in there that allows somebody you don't know to knock on your door and talk to you. And they may have to, as I think it was Dave was saying, you may have to lay down £25 on the table to get you in, to get you introduced, which if the person who's receiving the call doesn't like what you're saying, then you don't get the £25 back. And immediately that slows down the amount of spam you get. But you've got to have this emergency calling type protocol. So if there's an accident or I don't know, your wife has an accident in the car, and then somebody then tries to phone you to tell you, give you some kind of important information, you don't turn them away because you don't know them.
But doesn't the social graph model solve that? So if it's some random nurse in a hospital trying to phone me up out of nowhere, well, because they already, I mean, it's going to be like 3 degrees of separation probably, or 4 degrees of separation to some random nurse, and they're going to have good reputation, and trust should hopefully propagate through your network to reach them. They're not going to be any complete islands.
Okay, but a different scenario. Say there's an accident on the road 200 yards down the road from my house, and the guy comes staggering up with blood pouring down his face. and my door system won't let him in because it doesn't know who he is, or won't alert me because he hasn't got £25 to put in the meter or whatever. There's got to be some kind of emergency protocol which you can up the ante by being emotional or doing something. I mean, there's got to be a number of different factors that trigger the emergency communication protocol, but you've got to have it.
An emergency override.
You're miles and miles away, Corrado.
Yeah, Corrado, you're actually on a... Go ahead, say it again, because you need to get closer to the mic.
I mean, an emergency override.
It's just like on Star Trek, emergency override computer.
Yeah.
My authentication key is.
I wish I had that sound effect queued up, but I don't.
Isn't this just real life though that we use? Surely the emergency override is, if you've lost all of your tech and you're stripped naked with blood running down your head, blah 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 blah. Surely you should just yell at people in real life. It's not a technology problem anymore.
No.
Let me get Ken Rice in here because he just called in. So Ken, you wanted to say something. But you're muted somehow. I don't know what the problem is.
There's like 12 mute buttons over here. Hey, how's it going, guys?
Go for it, Ken. We can hear you now. Go.
Yeah, I was just going to say on the, James was talking about, charging somebody £25 just to talk to you and everything. If only we could get telemarketers to do that, because what they do is they'll show you the £25, but they'll be offshore, so you never get your £25 out of them.
Exactly.
In which case they wouldn't get through to me, would they? And I get this all the time. I mean, from Randy. Randy keeps on saying, James, I've got 25 telephone numbers for you.
Nobody
I can
gets
never
through to
get
you.
through to any.
No one gets through to James. No
But the
one.
answer is, Randy, probably because I don't want to talk to you at that moment in time. Because believe it
Yeah,
or not,
but when
some of
you
us
do-
actually do get quite busy during the week.
But then when you call me, I slide it over to the garbage can. So what
Yes,
can I
you
tell
do.
you?
Yes, you do. Yeah, we've got to have a protocol for this. In
right,
fact,
did-
what I want is a good bot. I want a Jarvis type Iron Man bot which answers all my calls. So, hello, is this call important? How important is this? And if I put you through to JB and it's not important, you'll never talk to him ever again, sort of thing.
I owed him, right?
You're scrotum, you say?
I owed him. They did this.
Used to be Wildfire.
Did this 10 years ago.
Yes,
That was a good idea.
Yeah, I had Wildfire. I thought it was brilliant. Yeah,
Prioritizing.
What noise does a cow make? Do you remember that one?
You know what we did not cover that's going to probably irritate a lot of the super techies, but we mentioned that we were going to talk about WWDC, and there's very few things to mention. I mean, nobody cares about iOS and all that, and the Mac OS
I care
rename.
about those things, Randy.
We were going to speak of, James, we were going to speak of iMessages, the rumor that iMessage, because everybody's concerned with chat, and we've been talking about all these different vectors and ways, vector.im, ways to get into...
Victor.
ways to get to speak. Anyway, there was a rumor, short-lived rumor, that iMessage was going to be available for Android. It is not.
It's not.
But no, really, absolutely
There was
not.
a hope that
Anyway,
iMessage was going to be opened up.
yes,
But you know what? It's not. Not in the way
iMessage,
that everybody wanted it to.
iMessage will not be opened up until what is it? The FaceTime video thing is SIP compliant.
yeah, right. That's going to happen real soon.
Well, it is SIP compliant, but it's secured with cryptographic keys, which are issued by Apple and pre-installed on Apple devices. So the only way you can use it is by having an Apple device.
Apple
But
has
it's
zero
there.
interest in
Underneath it's
interoperability.
there.
Apple has, as Michael said, Apple has little interest in interop. By the way, does anybody ever heard of ThinkUp, the analysis thing for social media? No, because
Think up.
can't remember his last name now. Gina Trapani and Anil, lost it here. Anyway,
What's the name again, Randy? What is the name?
ThinkUp was a thing that look at your social your activity on Twitter, Facebook, and so on, and put it all into a database. And well, this went on for a while. It was a big
Is
business.
that like clout?
A little bit, but not. Well, I wish I could explain it properly, but I was in it on the ground floor. And the point is that they announced today. Gosh, I wish I could remember Neil's last name. It's crazy. But because he's kind of a very, very intelligent guy, and he's been around. Anybody?
Anil Dash.
Yeah, Anil Dash. There you go. Thank
Anil
you.
Dash, yeah.
Thank you, Michael, because he's an important person. Because he's, if you listen to some of his interviews, he's a really bright guy. Anyway, he announced today that they're over. So that's all I wanted to say about that. I was involved.
So here
in that
I
for a
am
bit.
googling ThinkUp, and you just say,
No,
"Oh, don't
Anil
bother because they're over."
Well, they just Anil Dash, who, like I said, he's somebody who you can. Well, he's on Medium and stuff like that. Also, I mentioned that Medium is really on the upswing. By the way, I've posted this in a couple of places, and for those of you who maybe want to get into social media / blogging in a growing platform rather than a declining one, right now, Medium would be an interesting place to post. Matthew, I see your face, and I'm going to tell you, for example, you'd be a perfect person. You folks, someone should be posting about what you're doing on Medium. Why?
I think
Because
you mean
are you?
medium.com/Vector, Randy.
I was going to say, I assume that you're intelligent enough to have been on there since I have, which is months or years maybe. But yeah, so what do you think then? If you're on there, what have you been doing and what do you think of it?
So we used Medium as the blog for the launch of Vector last week, and it's an interesting thing because on one hand it is a silo, so it's very ironic to be blogging about decentralized systems.
Absolutely.
On the other hand, it's a very, very nice authoring environment with some quirks, but it's, they've written an incredibly nice WYSIWYG editor onto it with beautiful typography and ligatures and all the nice things which you want in life. And the analytics and the social networking elements, it's all obviously tied into Twitter, is great. So I think they deserve to be on the upswing, but it would be lovely if it wasn't yet another silo, and we should probably be moving the Vector material into something a little bit more decentralized, like Matrix.
I totally get that, and I totally agree with you. The one thing that's interesting, I think the unique thing, and we're not going to talk for hours on the Medium, but the one thing that is unique about it is that if someone, if you post about, hey, Vector.im, we're doing blah, 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 we're doing this, someone can come back and post an entire article in response with inline images. And I don't know if there's anywhere else. Am I missing something? Is there a place? Because it's not easy to do this on Facebook. You can't do it on Google Plus at all. So what I'm saying is you go through this big thing about what you're doing and how great it is, or, even if it's political or a recipe, it doesn't matter. The person can respond to you with a full article and, like I say, inline images, videos, and so on. That's the main thing in the good authoring, which, by the way, is probably just somebody's library, isn't it? I mean, what they're using to enter text.
No, it's their key IP. They all went and wrote it themselves from scratch. And if you look at their engineering blog, they're very, very proud of the fact that they've gone and built this crazy-ass kind of Google Docs on steroids dedicated blog editor.
I did. Yeah, well, that's interesting. I didn't know that, because you see that it looks a lot like a lot of the JavaScript editors that you see elsewhere, but fine. Anyway, point is, it's well done, and that's my main take on it, is that you can respond with a full-blown article. You can go, Jane, you ignorant slut, this is not true, and that's actually good, because rather than just drive-by comments, you can do a full rebuttal of somebody's thing. On the other hand,
you could do that, Randy, back in the old days of blogging, in the classic days of the open web and open blogging. This was the way it worked. You go and do your blog post, and then somebody would write their rebuttal, and then your ping back, you would see that you'd been rebutalized everywhere. So all they've done is to do the same thing, but this time in a silo.
Now, has anybody seen that Dave Weiner, who was the original blogger, as far as I know, has come forward with a new idea, a platform mechanism that he's trying to get some traction with? I think they just sort of broke silence with it in the past week or so, trying to promote it around. I know nothing about it, except I sort of saw a little Twitter activity.
Something you need to install though, and so I didn't try it. And the demo that he has posted online doesn't respond, which means I guess there's just too many people on it. But yeah, I agree. It's interesting, no question. And Matthew, your comment, yeah, as far as the ability back in the old days, the ability again. What I'm saying is that you can respond with an entire article. Well, you can do this, I guess, with Known, right? With Ben's thing, Known, you can theoretically, or the open web anyway, you can respond with an article on your own blog, right? And there's a way to get that to make it look like it's connected. But I find that to be a little bit awkward, but it's a great idea.
Yeah, they certainly made the user experience much, much nicer on Medium in terms of having these full-blown responses to one another. The thing that I also really like on it is the ability to mark up particular bits, literally highlights, and it looks like you've gone at it with an old-fashioned green or yellow highlighter in order to go and call out particular things and reference specific bits of the article. And that's really nice. I mean, that's, again, it's in a silo, but the user experience is like the web should be, the ability to kind of annotate and mark up, and it's like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. You should be able to write in the margins for everybody else to read, and it turns out that the footnotes in the margins end up being more interesting than the actual article, and then the game continues. But again, they're headed in the right direction, but it's all yes and other side. So
yeah, it's really exactly. It's really the yin and yang. I mean, it's beautiful what they've done, and yet it is a silo. Michael just posted, and he's right to do so. Designer's thing, which is 1999.io. Now, when I tried the demo, it was not answering. So I would love to take a look at what they're doing, but I'm sure it's great. Who else wants to chime in? I've already spoken way too much for this time. James, no. Who hasn't spoken? Dave. Ken, you got in late. Anything else?
I had one thing that I wanted to return to, if you can hear me and see me.
Mute button. No, I hate social media.
Wait. Who's speaking? Who is speaking there? Because it's.
This is Dave. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, you're off mic, but go ahead. We can hear you. Go ahead, Dave.
We can hear you, but I don't.
You're way off mic.
Think
but go.
Everybody could.
I could try talking closer. Is that better, guys?
Oh, that's much better.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. After a while, I need a cup of coffee. It's kind of hard to move and get one.
You need some gummy bears, you mean?
Maybe those would help.
Gummy bears.
But I did want to return to an older thing that I wanted to talk about. They've been calling it the devil and the DHT. And back to the distributed web conference and back to what Paul said about individuals being less powerful than groups. What I saw almost
I do have a question.
Oh, go ahead, Tim.
For Matthew.
Hold on, Ken, because you're not hearing Dave who's speaking.
You can't hear me,
We've been
Ken?
having hold on a second. Let me just say for everybody, because you can all apparently hear me, that Dave was speaking, Ken couldn't hear him, and I'm sorry we've had this problem throughout this conference. So let Dave go ahead, and then we'll figure out what we're doing here. Sorry.
I was specifically addressing this to Matthew myself. Matthew, can you hear me?
I can, although I feel bad for Ken. Go for it, Dave.
God, this is complicated. Go ahead, Dave.
Yes, please pass notes. Anyway, individuals are less powerful than gangs.
Was that a go ahead, Ken?
No.
No. Is it go ahead, Dave? I'm so sorry. Ken, listen. Wait. Stop everything. Everybody
Ken,
stop all over the world. Ken, reload your Jitsi, please. Reload. And then refresh and go, Dave.
All right, Ken, can you hear me now?
Well, no.
Forget Ken. Speak. Speak,
Go,
Dave. Speak.
Can you hear me now? Anyway, it's been, again, I love the fact that this technology exists and we're getting there. You know, this will be perfect someday. Anyway, individual less powerful than gangs. The core thing, my big takeaway from the distributed conference is that the IETF, ICANN, and all the big corporations, etc., are kind of viewed as intimidating by everybody under the age of 35. And yes, they try to be welcoming. Some of them, anyway, do. You know, getting your own port number, your own IPv6 address space, interacting with these processes is difficult and hidebound and old. But there's a lot of people that want to pass the baton, including me, and want to enable whatever you want to do. And let it be your internet. And I really, really wish that the intimidation didn't exist. And in particular, the thought that I'd had during the Distributed Web Conference is that we have this IPv6 address space, which has got plenty of room left over. And there's lots of things that if a bunch of people agreed to it, that we could do to create an Internet 2 is taken, Internet 3. We could set up a new IPv6 address space for people to play in, and fix a few things along the way. And I would love to see the Meshy people, the DHT people, all sort of working together in their new stuff, in their new play space to make their stuff work together. Is that something that's like ever occurred to that?
Yeah, that
matrix or
sounds like
whatever?
such a good idea. And it's a bit like, well, there's a parallel here with radio spectrum as well, where it's good to give people little lumps of spectrum just to go bananas in.
Go play. So I wanted to do was finally go up to RIPE and say, look, I would like to have IPv6 private address space. It will be managed by the following very trusted organizations, for example, archive.org, as well as whatever. It's going to touch down on every continent. We'll have a few new things in there, like requiring crypto between the touchdown points, letting people get on via multiple means, be it a Meshy protocol, be it a VPN protocol, don't care. And here, go play. Get back to us when you're done. But I also would like to have a little bit of adult supervision to try to guide it towards not becoming dark web 2.0.
Yeah.
But
I don't like being supervised.
I know, neither did I when I was a
People
kid.
say you can't do that, or I'm going to have to look over your shoulder. I feel distinctly uncomfortable with that, and I've always been like that.
So I'd like to get that address space and or several address spaces with trusted partners. I mean, Paul's nodding. No, all right, I'll let you talk, Paul.
He's going like that.
And to say here, go play. And go ahead, Paul.
So the address space has been pretty well wired down by the powers that be. And, there is some space that is available for global unique address, or ULA, which is not supposed to ever get routed. And then everything else has to come from an RAR. And that RAR has to make allocations within its region. So any of you who know that Brian Cantor,
what is an RAR?
RARs are regional internet registries, something like RIPE, which David was just mentioning. RIPE is responsible for 152 countries in the Europe and Middle East. There's LACNIC in Latin America. There's AFRINIC in Africa, as you'd expect.
Yeah, but
ARIN is responsible
appointed
for
these?
North America.
Who appointed them?
They
Because
were appointed
I didn't vote for them.
by operators in those regions. There are 5 RARs. If you
So-
want to make a 6th one, they have
Appointed by
arranged.
operators who are commercial organizations who make
No, it included operators of university and research networks as well.
Oh, okay.
So I just want to say that if you would like to create another non-regional RAR or a regional RAR that was multi-region, then a trail of fire has been prepared for you. Good luck.
Yeah, I like that.
If you would like to allocate space outside of the RAR system, a different trail of fire has been prepared for you. It's called the global policy process. Pretty much what Dave just said can't be done because that's not the way internet governance has been made to work. And so I myself would very much like to see a lot of mesh networking and a lot of, I'd like packets to not have to go quite so far from A to Z when A and Z are in the same room. But that is not the way internet governance works. Anyway, the important part of this break-in is that it is 2:30 in the morning here in Seoul, Korea, and my flight is at 4 p.m. tomorrow, and I've started to realize that I really should be sleeping instead of talking to you guys, as pleasant as it is. So thank you so much for inviting me to this, and this is me signing off.
Thanks, Paul. Great to see
Thank you, Paul. Excellent to have you with us as
Good
always.
night.
Sheer lunacy joining from Seoul.
I had no idea where he was. Okay, everybody.
Yeah, in my case,
people
I
are
have to get
coming.
going too.
Okay, well, people have coming in and out and being no videoed and all that, so we probably should stop the stream.
Yeah.
But
I wanna
thank
know
you,
what
David.
Ken had, Randy. Ken
What's
had
that?
something. Ken had
Oh,
an
Ken has
interesting
it.
thing.
Sure, let's get it in. Let's get it
Yes.
into the recording. Go ahead, Ken.
I know he ran just then.
Well,
Coming. Well, his thing's still there.
Not
He's
for
the
me,
green.
it isn't.
no, that's not him. That's not him. That's Michael.
That's Michael. The green
I just want.
I'll leave this open because if he comes back in, we'll be able to hear him.
I too have to run, but I do want to say that although internet governance is currently screwed for this plan of creating a safe space, it can be fixed. I think. If it
I think
it can too.
I think everything can be fixed. All it needs is people who are passionate enough, like yourself and Matthew.
Matthew.
Definitely passionate about
But
things.
it also needs a few trusted individuals that have BGP AS numbers at the very least, and that's get it at that entry barrier.
And
is very
right
difficult.
probes. And right probes.
Yeah.
I have a right
Well,
probe.
Well, you can get BGP AS.
Yeah, I've got an AS. AS
Yeah.
31562.
I used to have one until some company stole it from me.
All right, I'm going to go make
Anyway,
some
we'll talk
homemade.
about that problem later. I got to run.
Yeah.
Though. See you guys.
Thank you, Dave. I really appreciate you coming by, as always. Good to
Thank
see
you
you.
for
Good to
having me
see
as
you,
well.
and good to hear you because we don't see you anymore.
Very nice to meet you, Matthew. I don't remember seeing you at the conference, but I was there. But see you around.
That's like chips in the moon.
Bye bye.
All right, everybody. I'm going to stop the recording. That doesn't mean we have to stop the Jitsi, but I will stop the stream.